Hi, welcome to Jana's Kitchen. Today we are making fried chicken. But how are we going to do it? We're going to do oven fried chicken. But I thought, there's a lot of people who don't know how to cut up a chicken. And so you can buy them at the store. You can ask your meat department to cut it up for you. Or learn how to do it yourself. It's a whole lot cheaper if you learned it yourself. This is a 6-pound chicken. 6 pounds is a good size. It was $1.69 a pound, and it's $10 for an entire chicken. So think about how many meals you can get from an entire chicken. I've got a bucket right here I'm going to pour this into. There's always juices, and I am really fussy when it comes to handling raw meats. So as before, you can see I wear gloves because it makes it easier for me to clean up. And there's a lot of juice in a chicken because they add brines to it. So I always have a bucket or my sink there. So here is a whole chicken. This is the breastbone right here. And here is the back. You can always tell which is the back because there's the little happy tail. And so how I do it, there's many ways to do it. I do not recommend a serrated knife. If that's all you have, then that's all you have. But I think that it kind of messes up the chicken a little bit, the chicken skin. This is a boning knife. And this is a big kitchen knife. And so what I do is I take the wing, I pull it out, and I bend it back like this. And there's a joint right there, and it should come, and there's like 2 knuckles right there. You go right between them and cut it off. I'm gonna put that in my bucket. And then I'm gonna do the same thing on this side. There's 2 knuckles right there. I'm gonna go right in between them. There's 2 wings. I remember being in high school when I learned how to do this. And so for the leg, here's the drumstick. There's your friendly drumstick. Here's the thigh. And so what I do is I go in between the breast, and there's a fold of skin, and I just gently go down. And there was an 80-year-old woman, she was over 80 actually, who taught me how to do this. And she was a farmer's wife, and so she had done a lot of chickens. But that doesn't mean it's the only way. So after I get that, there's the thigh bone. Here's the breast side of the chicken. I bend it back to expose that joint, and then I cut right in between that joint. And then again, and a lot of people just like to do the thigh and the drumstick combined. And so I cut them again. So we have 2 pieces. So I lay it down, see this side down like this, and I pull that skin up because I want nice skin on my drumstick. And there's another joint. You can feel it with your fingers. And there, cut right between. There's always a joint there. I'm going to do it again on this side. There's that thigh. There's the breast. Right here's the breast. And I cut between that. Always cut away from yourself too. See, I pulled this back, and then I cut in between that joint to get all that thigh meat. See, keep all the skin intact. So again, I lay it down so it's kind of on its side. You can feel with your thumb, right there's the joint. You can feel the 2 knuckles. I cut right between them. Put those in my bucket. Now here's the back. You can really feel it, and you can feel all the ribs. There's the breast. And so I go right down below those ribs. These are the giblets. Some people save those for making gravy, giblet gravy. Here's the gizzard. They put those inside the body cavity. Here's the liver. There's the liver. If you like livers, then you can cook those up too. And then here's the neck. And some people like that. Or you can save these pieces. This is part of the liver. Here's the chicken heart. Here's the gizzard. I know one of my daughters is going, what? She doesn't like that part, but she does make giblet gravy now that she's a grown woman. She boils those up and she can make the best pan gravies. Woo! Okay, there's that rack of ribs. You can feel them with your fingers. It's hard to show that when it's a whole chicken. And that's why you want a sharp knife. If you don't have a sharp knife, invest in one. So this is $10 for this entire chicken. Look how many pieces of chicken meat you're getting for $10. Now, how much do you pay for one meal at a drive-through? Think about that. You can save a lot of money doing this yourself. And on this back piece with the tail, there's a flap of skin right there. And you can save that for making a stock. If you cook the back, I want to show you something when cleaning a chicken. Right here, if you dig in those cavities, there's going to be some pieces inside of there that you really don't want to cook up. It's part of the innards that they can't get out in their commercial cleaning. So I always reach in there. Sometimes you'll see little baby kidneys and whatever else. And so I always remove those pieces right there. And then the rest of that is just fat along the backbone. And some people like the tail and keep it on because it's delicious for those who like it. Or you can take it and cut it off. All of those pieces that I'm taking out can be boiled to make a gravy. And then just put that into the bucket. You can see part of the neck here on this piece. The other thing, if you don't want to cook these up, is you can save them to make homemade chicken stock. Okay, so now we're left. This is a whole breast. What you buy at the grocery store are split breasts where they have cut them down the middle of the backbone, just like I'm about to do here. And this is why you want to be really careful. Keep your fingers above the knife at all times. You do not want a piece of your hand, fingers, arms, anybody else's fingers, arms, anywhere near the bottom of a knife as it's going down or forward. So always keep your hands above the knife. Look at that, is a big piece of chicken breast. So again, you don't have to do this because somebody's husband might eat that whole thing. We're trying to cut back a little bit. So here we go again, keeping my hands above. There. So I'm going to have 4 pieces of chicken breast. There's another one. I'm going to find that bone. The bone runs this way. So all of that went into my bucket. Now I'm going to, look up, this is why I use paper towels, because all of the chicken juices go into the paper towel, not running down your cupboard or your pantry. And into the garbage it goes. So now we have a cut up chicken. I'm going to be right back and we're going to do the next part of this oven fried chicken. Okay, now that we've got the chicken cut up, I'm going to show you how we are going to bread it. Oh, there goes my washing machine. Hey, we're a family here. So you're going to hear husband's coming in, hollering for me. By the way, that did go in the sink. 1 egg into any bowl that you have. That'll hold a piece of chicken. And so you're going to want to mix that up so that the white and the yellow get all mixed together. You can use a whisk, you can use a fork, you can use a beater, whatever you want to do. Okay. And now a 1/2 cup of carnation milk, which is milk, evaporated, not sweetened condensed. This is milk that some of the water has been removed from. Okay. Mix those together. So this is your wet right here. I'm going to set that aside. And now we're going to do our dry ingredients for the batter of the chicken. So into this Ziploc bag, or you can use a paper bag, I'm going to do 1 cup of flour, 2 teaspoons of paprika, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon or less, depending upon your family, of black pepper, and of course I fresh grind mine. I just mix all up in the bag, easy peasy. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry coat my chicken first. I'm going to put all my pieces of chicken in here real quick. Just do a light coat. It doesn't need to be the final heavy coat. Get all this done real quick here. This is a fast meal. It bakes at 400 degrees. Speaking of which, right behind me in my oven, I have 1 large cookie sheet, enough to handle each piece of this chicken. I have the cookie sheet in the oven behind me at 400 degrees, preheating. I preheat my pan and I've got it covered in foil. You don't have to use foil if you don't want to. So there, I've got that lightly dusted with the flour. I still have quite a bit of flour left. So now I'm going to take my pieces of chicken. I'm going to dip them into the wet, and then I'm going to put it into the dry, just like that. I'm going to set this to the side. Mixed a little bit there on top from my thumb. And I'm going to, real quick, get out my cookie sheet. I should have done that first. I'm going to get my cookie sheet up out of the oven. Ooh, that's hot. 400 degrees hot. And I've got a stick of butter, and I have some Crisco shortening. You can maybe have yours in the big can, you know, the solid shortening. And what I'm going to do, oopsie daisy, drop something, it's okay. Like I said, we're a family. We're going to have people who live here. And so this is half a stick, which is about 1/4 cup, or somewhere between, I broke off about 1/3 cup. And then I'm going to put in a stick of butter onto my pan. And I'm going to stick this back in the oven for just a minute to heat that up while I'm breading my chicken pieces. Because that pan is like a hot skillet. And then it'll be done in just a minute. Put my glove back on. Whoopsie, pulled too hard. Back in the wet, into the dry, and you can shake it. Like I said, you can use a paper bag if you want to. I wouldn't do one that you brought things home from the grocery store, and I would do a clean one. Ask your grocer if they have a bag for you. You can even buy those paper bags in a pack if you don't like to use plastics. Look at all that breading on there. Going wet, dry. And depending upon the size of your chicken, you might have to add a little bit more flour to your mix. We're going to let that sit a minute. It's kind of fun to have your children help with this part. My children were really good about helping me in the kitchen. They learned a lot, and now that they're grown, they're great cooks. All my 3 children are great cooks. They each have their thing. They actually cook very healthy. Missed some in the armpits there. Into the wet and into the dry. Into the wet and into the dry. Last piece, into the wet, into the dry. And what we're going to serve with our meal today are new potatoes and cream and peas. And we're going to come and do that in a minute after we get this chicken in the oven. And so, if you've got any leftover flour in here, and I mean, we came really close on that mixture. Like I said, if there's something missing, because this was a pretty big chicken. And so, if you need to add a little bit more flour to yours, you can do that. Just grab your canister and sprinkle a little bit more on. All the main ingredients are already on there. Alrighty, whoopsie, that glove was not a happy glove. I just splattered. Okay, now my hot cookie sheet coming out of the oven. Be really careful with this part, because that is 400 degrees of butter and shortening. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to put this skin side down into this hot pan. You don't want to crowd them too much because you want them to oven fry. Skin side down. And that fit perfectly on that cookie sheet. Wipe my hands off here real quick. Raw chicken, I'm gonna wash my hands real quick. With soap. Washing them real good. And don't forget that that pan is hot. Please don't forget. So now, hot pan with butter and shortening going into my 400 degree preheated oven. And I'm going to cook that for 35 minutes at 400 degrees. And then I'm going to flip that chicken, and then I'm going to cook it for 35 more minutes, 30 to 35, depending on the size of your chicken. It might take a little bit longer. You'll have to go by that. But if you want to use a meat thermometer, you're going to cook your chicken to about 185 degrees is what they recommend. I think that's too dry, but that's the recommended safety of chicken. But 165 is what I normally shoot for, 165 to 175, depending upon the piece. And the dark meat and the white meat don't cook exactly at the same time, but the size difference makes up for that. And so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn over to the stove here, and I've got some new potatoes in a saucepan, and the new potatoes are perfect this time of year. I noticed that the produce market nearby us has the new potatoes coming in, both red or white, doesn't matter, whatever you like, and these are new potatoes. And I've put about a quart of water inside these, and I put about a tablespoon of salt in. I'm covering those and bringing those to a simmer. When we come back, we're gonna have a white cream sauce or white gravy, and we're gonna make that, and that'll go with peas over the top of the potatoes with our fried chicken. So we're gonna have this as our meal tonight. We'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, we're back. We're gonna check on this chicken. It's been 30 minutes. I'm seeing it for the same time as you are here. And we're gonna turn this chicken, and then it's gonna cook for 30 more minutes. This is oven fried chicken. And we put the skin side down first. And you want to do this very carefully because you don't want to knock your breading off. Oopsie. Very carefully, like I said. One more to go here. The center's, I'm going to move this piece here out to the edge. For some reason, the center's not quite as hot there. I'm going to flip this one back over to the skin side and flip him over in a little bit. I'm going to put him back in my oven now for 30 more minutes. There's my timer. Setting my oven timer. I'm going to put it back in. We're going to come back and check on it. Now we're going to go over to the stove. I'm going to check these potatoes. Get my handy dandy pot. Ooh, yeah. And those are just as fork tender. I'm going to leave them just like that. All I did to prepare those potatoes was that I rinsed them off in running water for 30 seconds. Put them in the pot with that quart of water, and then you drain them off. And now I'm going to start our white sauce. I've got a saucepan here. And get it going. I'm going to make a big pan of gravy tonight. I'm going to use a stick of butter. You can make this half as much as if your family doesn't eat gravy like ours does. Which a stick of butter is a 1/2 cup, and we're going to do even portions. For my, I'm not sponsored by this company, by the way, but it's just a training. Wondra, you've probably seen it. It's by the flour section at your local store. It's called Quick Mixing Flour, and it's all-purpose flour. But you can even tell the grain of it is different. But it just makes a really smooth sauce, I found. So I like to use it for my sauces if I have it. But trust me, for years and years, I just used regular old all-purpose flour right out of my canister. It's $1 something for this big canister. And so we have a stick of butter, which is a 1/2 cup, like I said. And we're going to use equal parts of this. You don't want to brown your butter for this because it's going to be a real pretty white sauce. There we go. And so then we're going to add the flour to the melted butter. There we go. And when you add flour to make a sauce, that flour is not cooked. So you don't want to start adding your liquids at this point in time because that's raw flour. We want to cook it for about 2 minutes. If you see Bailey and Jack around here sticking their noses up, they're present. My husband's out planting the last of our flowers, and I know he's going to come in and be hungry for dinner. I wouldn't say this is his favorite dinner. He's not eating too many fried foods and things these days, but I wanted to try and get in some more. He's trying to eat on the healthier side. I've been pretty much feeding my family keto all day long, and then we have a regular meal at night. So they really don't get into ketosis with me doing that. But I've been working on this cooking channel and cookbook, so it's kind of hard to cook super healthy. I am going to be adding in some of our healthier recipes as time goes on, but I'm doing some regular how to become a great home cook. So you can have recipes for generations to share with your family. Okay, so there, we've cooked this for about 2 minutes. I'm going to add my fingers about 2 teaspoons of sugar. You can omit that if you choose. And now I've got whole milk, but you can use skim milk, you can use whatever you want. You can even use half chicken broth or half milk, whatever you want from here on out. But if you want my creamy gravy, this is what we're going to do. I used a cup of half and half and 3 cups of whole milk. So now I'm going to turn my fire down a little bit, down to medium. And I'm going to gradually, because if you pour it in too quickly, you're going to have lumpy gravy. And we don't want lumpy gravy. And that's another thing that the Wonder really helps to do, is to have a nice smooth gravy. Sizzle, sizzle, that hot pan. And you want to whisk this. There's whisks, there's whisk spoons. So that was 2 cups of liquid, and we're getting that mixed in real good. And then we'll add the other 2 cups of whole milk. Like I said, this was 1 cup of half and half and 1 cup of milk. And then I've got another measuring cup with 2 cups of whole milk. But I'm going to add that slowly. And let this start to come to thicken a little bit. Get scraping the sides of my pan. We have that. All it is a half a cup of butter, 1 stick of butter, 1/2 cup of flour, equal parts, and that makes a roux. R-O-U-X is what that's called. When you cook that for 2 minutes, it becomes a roux. R-O-U-X. And you can actually make a roux and just keep it in your refrigerator in a container. And if you need to thicken a sauce at the last minute, just put in a little bit of that roux, because the flour's already cooked and the fat's already in there. When I worked in the kitchen at the Flying E Ranch out in Wickenburg, Arizona as a young woman, I helped Miss Mabel McCabe. She was a retired woman, semi-retired I guess, from Alexandria, Minnesota. And in the wintertime, she loved to go south for the winter, and so she cooked at guest resorts so that she could afford to live in the South during the cold Minnesota winters. And I learned so much from Miss Mabel McCabe, and she was a godly woman. She took a lot of time helping me learn. And she is probably the one who's most responsible. My mom was a great cook, but Mabel McCabe is the one most responsible for helping me become a better cook and give me some skills that I carry to this day. I'm going to gradually, as that started to thicken, I'm going to gradually add more of this milk. This is a recipe that I've grown up with. My mom would make new potatoes with the white cream sauce in the springtime. And that's pretty much the only time I make it. This is a year-round dish, but when it comes around Easter time and springtime and you start to see all the new potatoes, now you see them in the grocery store all year long, those baby bags of potatoes, the baby potatoes and things. But, you know, back in my growing up days in the 50s, 60s, 70s, we didn't have new potatoes year-round. But now, with all of the transportation the way it is, we have pretty much anything we want year-round, including watermelons and cantaloupes. And so we continue to whisk this. It doesn't take very long. I turned my heat down quite a bit. And then I've got some Morton, you know, the little girl with the umbrella, nature seasoning. It's got salt and black pepper and sugar, spices, natural onion flavor, garlic, parsley, celery seed. But it's just a real neutral seasoning, and I use it. Sometimes I'll buy split chicken breasts, and that's all I put on them, is sprinkle both sides. We might do that one day too for another oven baked chicken that is keto friendly. And then you'll do this to taste. And as it thickens up, you'll want to taste your gravy. This is just a cream gravy. I'm going to reach over here and grab my pepper mill. I like to add pepper to mine. You do not have to, or you can add a white pepper if you prefer. That smells so good. And if I sneeze, that's not unusual for me. Pepper, red pepper, cayenne pepper, spicy Chinese. It's pretty much guaranteed a 3 sneeze for mama. This is going to continue to simmer. So we'll be back, and I'm going to take this bag of frozen peas, and all I ever do, I don't even cook them. I just thaw them in a strainer under cold water. I just run them under cold water and strain them out, and they'll be ready to add to our sauce. That's it. We'll be back in just a couple. Welcome back. It's dinner time. We have oven fried chicken. As you can see, it's nice and crispy. Listen. Nice, crispy, and not deep fried. And there's still a lot of the oil that we cooked in it, that we cooked the chicken in, is still on that tray. So we are going to pull up a piece. I like a wing. Ooh, I like a wing or a thigh. And then to finish up these potatoes, you can see that simmering. I did add another pinch. This is to your taste. I did add another pinch because I doubled the batch. I did add another pinch of sugar and some more nature seasoning. And so you do it to your own taste on salt and seasonings. There's already salt in this, so you don't need to add any more. And so now I'm going to add those peas to this sauce. And all I did with those peas was frozen peas, and I ran them under water until they thawed. I like to break mine open a little bit. And I take that gravy. So I already got your vegetables in it, your sauce in it. And I pour that. This is a very springtime food where I was raised. And I like that extra creamed peas in that. I'm going to hit it with a little bit more black pepper for me personally. And that is oven fried chicken. And one of my all-time favorites. Look at those soft new potatoes with that cream sauce or cream gravy with fresh garden peas and crispy chicken. I hope you make this for your family and enjoy it as much as we do. Thank you, and we'll see you again soon.